You'd make a terrible wife, I told my best friend at my cousin's engagement party, holding two stolen champagne flutes, and June Park set down her plate, smiled slower than I have ever seen a human being smile, and said, "Let me prove you wrong." Then, while I was still laughing, because this had been our bit for 15 years, she stepped in close, tucked herself under my chin like she was straightening my collar, and whispered a sentence that had absolutely nothing to do with the bit. "Keep laughing. Your Uncle Victor is watching us from the bar, and I need you to look like I just said something funny instead of something true. 10 minutes. Coat room. Come alone, Theo, and don't check your phone where he can see your face." She pulled back, patted my chest twice, said "terrible wife," honestly, the audacity, at full party volume, and drifted off toward the dessert table like a woman without a single secret in her body. Here's the 15-second version of us, because that's genuinely all the time I had before the coat room. I'm Theo Marchetti. I run Rosa's, the red sauce restaurant my grandmother built from one stockpot and 40 years of stubbornness, and June Park has been my best friend since we were 14, when she started doing homework in booth 6 because her parents' store was next door and my nonna fed anyone with a backpack. The terrible wife thing started senior year. She burned a single pan of ziti in Nana's kitchen. Nana crossed herself theatrically, and I said it, and June said, "And you'd make a terrible husband," and we shook on it, and for 15 years that handshake has been the safest place I know. Every wedding, every funeral, every New Year's, terrible wife. Terrible husband, a joke worn smooth as a river stone. She had never once broken the bit. So when I slipped into the coat room 10 minutes later and found June standing between the winter jackets with her phone in her hand and her party face completely gone, my stomach dropped before she said a word. 40 minutes ago I went looking for the bathroom and took a wrong turn into the catering office, she said. No preamble. June does not do preamble when it matters. I know that now. Your uncle was in there on the phone. Door cracked. Theo, he was talking to someone named Dressler. She watched my face for recognition and got nothing, so she gave it to me. Dressler Development. They did the teardown on Fulton Street, where my parents' store used to be. Okay, I said slowly. And Victor was talking to a developer at Anna's engagement party because he's selling the building. She said it fast, like pulling a splinter. Your building, Rosa's, I heard him say. Closing on the 30th, I heard him say demolition survey next week. And then I heard him say, and here June Park, who has never in 15 years looked away from me mid-sentence. The kid doesn't know, and there's nothing in the will for him to know about. It's clean. It's mine to sell." End quote. The coat room got very small. The 30th was 17 days away. Let me explain what you need to know about my Uncle Victor, and I'll do it the way Nana used to, in one sentence. Victor is the son who left the restaurant to become a lawyer, and Nana loved him, and Nana never once let him hold the cash box. When she died 14 months ago, her will made Victor trustee of everything: the building, the accounts, the restaurant's lease, until distribution, which Victor kept telling me was a process, Theo. Probate is a process. While I kept the kitchen running and signed whatever he slid across the bar because he was family and I was grieving, and those two facts together are the oldest unlocked door in the world. He can't just sell it, I said. She left the restaurant to me. Everyone knew what she said at Sunday dinner. I needed what the paper says. June turned her phone around. So after I heard him, I did something you're going to be weird about. I've processed 100 estates through the county. I knew the file number format and probate filings are public record, and I have the portal login on my phone. Theo, I've been standing in this coat room for half an hour reading your grandmother's trust. June works at the county probate clerk's office. Has for 6 years. Files, dockets, deadlines, the fine print of other people's grief. That's her whole job, and I have teased her about it at approximately 200 consecutive family dinners, and I will never, ever tease her about it again. Tell me, I said. Article 4. She scrolled with her thumb, steady as a surgeon. The building specifically, not the business, the building transfers to you outright, free of trust, upon the first of 2 events. She looked up. Your 35th birthday. I'm 29. I know how old you are, Theo. I was at all of them. Back to the phone. Or, the first of two events, and here's the sentence your uncle has been living in terror of for 14 months. The sentence that explains why every one of your relationships has mysteriously caught fire since the funeral. The sentence I need you to hear standing up. She read it to me in the coat room, over the smell of other people's perfume, in the same voice she uses to read me menus in restaurants she's decided we're leaving. Or upon the marriage of my grandson Theodore Marchetti, at which time the trustee's powers over said property, including but not limited to any power of sale, shall terminate immediately and without further proceeding. Silence. Down the hall, the party laughed at something. June lowered the phone and looked at me, and I watched her walk right up to the edge of the bit, 15 years of the bit, and step off it. The 30th is 17 days out, and the moment a marriage certificate with your name on it gets recorded, Victor's power to sell dies on the spot. No lawsuit, no fight. A piece of paper, Theo. Your Nana left a kill switch in Article 4, and I don't think she left it there by accident, and you are the single most catastrophically slow man in this state, so let me say it in small words. She took a breath and the smile came back, slow, the one from the party, the one I'd been misreading for 15 entire years. And June Park said, "You joked I'd make a terrible wife. I have 17 days, a courthouse login, and a Friday off. Let me prove you wrong." The coat room door opened. Victor stood in it, backlit by the party, holding a glass of the good scotch, and wearing the smile he uses on judges. "There you two are," he said warmly. "People are asking after you, Theo. Anna wants photos." His eyes went to June, then to the phone in her hand, and stayed there a half-second too long. "Everything all right in here?" "Settling a bet," June said instantly, brightly, tilting the phone to show him, and it was open to a wedding registry, some stranger's registry, blenders and towels, and I don't know when she switched it. I never once saw her switch it. Anna's flatware pattern. "I said it was the Windsor," he said Chelsea. "He's wrong. He's always wrong." Victor laughed his courtroom laugh and held the door for us, and as I passed him he put a hand on my shoulder, the funeral hand, the process hand, and said, gently, "We should have lunch this week, Theo. There are some estate things coming to a head. Nothing for you to worry about. I'll handle everything. I got a whole night's sleep before it started. I want that on the record, because it's the last one I got for 3 weeks." Tuesday, 7:40 a.m., I unlocked Rosa's and found 2 men in reflective vests already in my dining room, my locked dining room, running a laser measure along the north wall between the family photos. Their work order said Dressler Development, PRE Demolition Survey, and their key, when I asked about the key, came from the property owner, sir. Mr. Marchetti, they measured my grandmother's dining room around me while I stood there holding menus, and one of them, not unkindly, told me the ovens might be worth pulling before the 30th. "They gut fast, these old buildings," he said. "Prettier they are, the faster they gut." I called Victor, voicemail, twice. Then a text back, 1 line, mid-morning, lunch Thursday. "It's complicated, but it's good news for you long-term. Trust me, from the trustee," while the laser dot crawled across Nana's wall, and that, more than the coat room, more than Article 4, is the moment the ground stopped being lava and started being real. He had keys made, he had surveys booked. This wasn't a plan, this was a schedule. June came by on her lunch break and found me sitting in booth 6 with the work order. She read it once, put it down, and slid a manila envelope across the table with the county seal on it. "Marriage license application," she said. "Both our names are already on it, because I typed it at 8:05 this morning, because I am extremely good at my terrible job. There's a 3-day wait after filing. If we file today, we can be married Friday afternoon and the certificate recorded Monday at 9:01 a.m., 11 days before his closing. The moment it's recorded, Article 4 fires, his sale authority is legally dead, and Dressler's lawyers will find that out in about 4 minutes, because title companies read trusts even when nephews don't." She set a pen on the envelope. Then, quieter, and this is the part I'd hear later in my head, at 3 a.m. on repeat. "It's paper, Theo. It doesn't have to mean, we can undo it after, if you want. It's a tourniquet, not a—" She stopped, rotated the pen 90 degrees so it faced me. "Don't let the building die because we were embarrassed. "Why are you doing this?" I asked, not suspicious, genuinely stupidly asking. "It's your Friday. It's your name, June. Perjury-adjacent paperwork. My uncle's lawyers. All of it. Why?" June looked at me across booth 6, where she has been doing homework and eating free ziti and watching me date other people for 15 years, and she said, "Because I've watched one family lose its walls to Dressler already," and that was true, and it was also, I know now, only the second truest thing she could have said. I signed. Of course I signed. I'd have signed in blood. The pen was a courtesy. Thursday's lunch with Victor never happened, because Wednesday night Victor found out. I'll never know exactly how. A clerk, a notification, a friend at the license bureau. Men like Victor are owed favors the way rivers are owed rain. But at 9:15 Wednesday night my phone rang, and there was no warmth left in the process voice at all. A marriage license, Theo. A long, disappointed exhale, the kind he practiced on juries, with the park girl. Sit down wherever you are, because you clearly don't understand what's happening. That building is carrying your grandmother's debts, significant debts. The sale is how I settle the estate cleanly and hand you your future without the bank taking it first. This stunt, and everyone will see it's a stunt, filed 17 days before closing, doesn't save the restaurant. It just moves the fight into a courtroom, and Theo? The last of the family drained out of his voice, and what was left underneath was the thing Nonna never let hold the cash box. Weddings are cheap, lawyers aren't. Ask your little clerk what a trust litigation runs, then ask her what she makes a year. Withdraw the license by Friday, come to lunch, and we forget this. Don't, and I'll have that marriage declared a fraud so fast the ink will still be wet, and I'll make sure the fraud has her name on it, not yours. She's the one with the county job and the fiduciary duty. Think about whose life you're spending, son." He hung up. I sat in the dark restaurant with the phone against my ear for a long time. Then I called June and told her every word, including the threat with her name on it, because whatever else this was, it was not going to run on secrets. She was quiet for a moment. I heard papers moving, and then June Park said the sentence I intend to have engraved somewhere eventually. Good. He's threatening. Men like him only threaten in the gap where their paperwork should be. Wear the blue jacket Friday. I already booked the judge. Friday morning tried to kill us twice before noon, and I need you to have both attempts, because they tell you who we were dealing with. At 9:05 a.m., June called from work with her courtroom voice on, which I'd learned by then meant incoming. Our 2:30 with Judge Aldana just vanished off the docket. Not canceled, vanished. Like it never existed, and the scheduling clerk suddenly can't find our license packet either. And Theo, that clerk had lunch twice last month with a paralegal from your uncle's firm, because I notice things. It's my terrible job. A paper shuffling pause, and then grimly cheerful. Fortunately, I also noticed that misplacing a filed license application is a records violation with a form number, and I happen to have the form open. Give me an hour. It took her 40 minutes. I never got the full story. Something about a supervisor, a retention statute quoted from memory, and the phrase, "Shall we ask the county recorder to look for it together?" delivered, per Denise, sweetly, the way you hand someone a live grenade sweetly. At 9:52 the packet was found in a tray it had fallen behind. At 10:15 we were back on the docket. Men like Victor buy delays wholesale. He just never priced one against a woman who knew where every tray in that building lived. The second attempt was quieter. At 1:40, as I stood outside courtroom 2B in the blue jacket holding grocery store ranunculus, my phone buzzed one time. Victor, no call, no lecture. 11 words, which I showed June the moment she arrived, because no secrets. Last chance, Theo. Walk in there and I stop being family. June read it twice, handed the phone back, straightened my collar with both hands, the way she had at the party, at the very start of all of this, and said, "He stopped being family 14 months ago in a catering office. All you're doing today is updating the paperwork." Then she took my arm, and we went in and got married. We were married on a Friday afternoon in courtroom 2B by a judge who owed June's office a favor, with her coworker Denise and my sous chef Rafi as witnesses, and I am not going to pretend to you that it felt like paperwork. She wore green, I wore the blue jacket. When the judge got to for better or for worse, June said, deadpan. "We've done 30 combined years of worse, Your Honor. We're just formalizing." And Denise laughed, and the judge laughed, and I looked at my best friend holding grocery store ranunculus in the county's worst lighting, and had a thought so loud I checked whether I'd said it. Oh no! Oh no! This was never a bit for me either. The certificate recorded Monday at 9:01 a.m. At 9:47, Dressler's counsel called Victor's office. By noon, June's friend at the title company narrated it for us like a horse race. The closing was off the calendar. Article 4 had fired. Nana's kill switch, drafted in her lawyer's tidy language, reached out of the file and took the pen right out of Victor's hand. For about 6 hours we celebrated. Rafi made the good gnocchi. Denise brought Prosecco to booth 6. Gus polished the bar mirror like it was a holiday, and somebody put Nana's Sunday playlist on the dining room speakers. And for one evening, Rosa's sounded exactly the way it had sounded when I was 9. June and I toasted with our marriage certificate flat on the table between the glasses like a fourth guest, and I kept catching myself looking at her name next to mine and forgetting to be ironic about it. Then, Tuesday, Victor did what men with letterhead do when they lose. He reloaded. The petition arrived by courier because of course it did. Victor knows exactly what a courier at your door does to your heart rate. Petition to invalidate marriage as sham, to reinstate trustees' power of sale, and for emergency relief. 14 pages. Hearing set for the 14th, his lawyers had somehow gotten it expedited, and buried in Dressler's attached letter was the reason. The developer would hold terms until the 15th of the month, and not one day further. A new clock, wound tight, prove the marriage real by the 14th, or the kill switch gets overridden and the sale rises from the dead with 1 day to spare. But it was page 9 that June read 3 times. Victor's lawyers had done their digging, and what they dug was her. Petitioner further notes that Ms. Park, a county probate employee, accessed the trust instrument through her official credentials for personal benefit. That one had teeth, and she knew it better than they did. And that Ms. Park has a documented history of contracting sham marriages, having entered and annulled a marriage in Clark County, Nevada, in 2014. I looked up. June was standing very still by the espresso machine. "I was 22, she said, to the machine. "Spring break. His name was Kyle. It lasted 51 hours. My dad flew out, and it was annulled before the hangover ended. And I have spent 12 years being the only person in this town who knows that story." She turned around and her eyes were bright and furious. "Except your uncle found it in 1 week. Which means, Theo, that he's had investigators on me since the coat room. And if he dug that fast for me, then he's been digging on you for 14 months. And I want you to think very hard right now. What happened to Claire?" Claire. My last relationship, 2 years, good enough that Nana had started asking questions in Italian, until 8 months ago, 3 weeks after the funeral, when she sat me down and ended it with a speech so strange and stiff I'd assume she was reading someone else's grief. "It's the timing, Theo. It's everything with the estate. I can't be part of what's coming. I never understood a word of it. I'd stopped trying to. June drove. I called. Claire answered on the 4th ring. And when I said the estate, you said you couldn't be part of what's coming. Claire, who talked to you?" The silence on the line lasted long enough that June pulled the car over. "He came to my office," Claire said finally, very quietly. "Your uncle. Maybe a month after the funeral. He knew things about my student loans. Numbers, Theo. Exact numbers. He said the estate was entering a difficult phase, and that anyone attached to you would be pulled into litigation, deposed, credit checked, dragged. He said he'd hate to see that happen to me. And then 2 days later my loan servicer called about an irregularity that took me 9 weeks to fix, and I got the message." Her voice cracked, just once. "I'm sorry. I've been sorry for 8 months. He didn't want you single, Theo. He wanted you unmarriageable, until the 30th of something. I didn't understand the deadline then. I'm guessing you do now." I thanked her. I meant it. I hung up and sat in June's passenger seat on the shoulder of Route 4 doing the math of my own life. Every date that fizzled after the funeral, the setup that ghosted, Claire's stiff goodbye speech, 14 months of Victor, wearing surgical gloves, quietly bricking up the one door in Article 4 that Nana had left open for me. "He knew about the clause from day one," June said, staring through the windshield. He read that trust the week she died, saw the kill switch, and started cutting wires. The debts he says the building carries? Theo, the restaurant net's fine. You'd know if the estate was drowning. Her jaw set, and I watched her arrive somewhere. Unless it is drowning and the water's going somewhere specific. I processed the inventory Victor filed with the court 14 months ago. Tomorrow morning I'm pulling it, and we're setting it next to the restaurant's actual bank statements, and we're going to find out what kind of trustee your uncle really is. Legally, on my own time, off my county login. She glanced at me. I get to say those words out loud now. My husband taught me the hard way that everything gets read. Your husband, I repeated. Legally, said June, and pulled back onto the road, and did not smile, and absolutely smiled. Wednesday, Victor cut the power, not literally, better than literally. As trustee, he still controlled the restaurant's operating accounts, and at 8 a.m., citing the pending litigation and my fiduciary duty to preserve estate assets, he froze them. Payroll was Friday. I had 11 employees, a walk-in full of perishables, a produce order due, and a checking account that returned, when I tried to move money, a message with his lawyer's phone number in it. He didn't need to win the hearing to kill Rosas, he just needed the lights out long enough. And then Wednesday night he came in person. Because a courier at your door raises your heart rate, but an uncle in your empty dining room at closing time stops it. I was stacking chairs when the bell over the door rang, and there he was, alone, coat over his arm, looking around Nana's dining room the way the survey men had, in square footage. I came to make this easy, Victor said, and set a folded document and a check on booth 6. The check had my name on it and a number with more zeros than the restaurant clears in 2 good years. The document was 3 pages. I acknowledge the marriage was contracted to obstruct the sale. I consent to its annulment. I release all claims. And, in cheerful bold near the signature line, June release 2, no referral to her county employer. Everyone walks away whole. The building was always going to go, Theo. Neighborhoods change. Your grandmother knew that. Why do you think she never modernized? Take the check. Marry the girl again in a year if you like her so much. Properly, when it doesn't mean anything. He tapped the paper twice, the funeral hand one last time. You have until the hearing. After that I stop offering and start collecting, and I collect from her first. I looked at the check for a long moment. I want to be honest with you the way this channel is always honest. 11 salaries were frozen, the walk-in was emptying, and a number with that many zeros has gravity. I felt it pull. Then I picked up the check and the release and walked them to the kitchen and slid them onto the shelf above the pass, directly under the green recipe tin I couldn't yet bring myself to open, and said, I'll keep them right here, with the rest of her stuff you didn't think was worth anything. Victor's jaw did something small and expensive. Get out of my grandmother's dining room, Vittorio. The next time you see me, one of us will be under oath. He left without a word. It's the only conversation I've ever won against him, and I didn't know yet that I'd just set his confession down 6 inches beneath the evidence that would sink him. Nana would have crossed herself, then laughed. What happened Thursday I will be telling until I die. Rafi found the frozen payroll notice in the office and, instead of quitting, photographed it and put it in the staff group chat with 3 words, all hands, family meal. At 4 o'clock before dinner service, my whole crew crowded booth 6, and it turned out Marisol had done payroll at her cousin's shop and could restructure our vendors, and Denise from the county knew the emergency motion procedure to compel a trustee to release operating funds, and old Gus from the bar had been, 40 years ago, Nana's very first dishwasher, and Gus said the thing that turned the whole war. He said Rosa never trusted that boy with the cash box. You know she counted the drawer after him every Sunday? Kept her own numbers in the recipe box. Told me once, Gus tapped the table, the day I can't watch him, the box will. The recipe box. Green tin, dented corner, on the shelf above the pass, where it had sat untouched since the funeral because I couldn't cook her food yet without my hands shaking. I dusted around it for 14 months. Under the recipe cards, under 60 years of sauce-stained index cards in her slanted hand, there was a false cardboard bottom, and under that, a school notebook, and an envelope with 2 words on it. Per Theo. The notebook was a ledger. 14 years of one, in pencil, in Italian. Every Sunday, the drawer count, and next to it, whenever Victor had helped with the banking, the deposit that actually landed, and the difference, small, steady, patient, circled. She'd totaled it every December like a Christmas ritual. The last entry was 11 days before she died. The last total had 5 digits, and next to it, in her hand, no exclamation point, just fact, Vittorio, Ancora, Victor, still, and the envelope. I'm going to give you the letter the way I got it, which is with June reading it aloud in the empty dining room because my eyes stopped working, translating as she went, her voice getting less steady with every line, which for June Park is the equivalent of anyone else sobbing on the floor. Theo. If you found this, either you finally cooked my osso buco, good, the secret is anchovy, now you know, or Vittorio is doing what I always knew Vittorio would do, and you need help. Probably both things are not true at the same time. I made the lawyer put the marriage words in the trust. He thought I was old-fashioned. Let him think. It was never about a wedding, tesoro. It was a lock your uncle cannot pick, because to open it, someone has to choose you in front of a judge, and no one can be paid to do that all the way. I needed you protected by something Vittorio's money can't buy. I could think of only one thing in this world. And Theo, I am an old woman, not a blind one. I know who does her homework in booth 6. I know who looks at you when you are looking at the pasta. 15 years, cuore mio. If you have not figured it out by the time you read this, ask the girl who reads everything to read you Article 4 again, slowly, and ask yourself who I wrote it for. Nana, P.S. The notebook goes to a judge, not to a family dinner. We are Italian, not stupid. The dining room was completely silent. June set the letter down on booth 6, exactly in the center, with both hands, the way you set down something that is still warm. Neither of us could look at the other. 15 years of the bit sat between us on the table, next to a dead woman's handwriting explaining, in 2 languages, that it had never fooled her for 1 minute. June, I said. Hearing prep, June said, in a voice like a dropped glass held together by the label. The notebook goes to a judge, Theo. You heard her. We have 5 days. I have to. Authentication. We'll need Gus's testimony about the Sunday counts, and a handwriting. And then my best friend, my paralegal, my wife, ran completely out of procedure for the first time in 15 years, and pressed the back of her hand to her mouth, and I crossed that dining room, and for a long time neither of us said anything at all, and the good and faithful bit that had carried us safely all the way here, quietly retired. The 4 days before the hearing were June's masterpiece, and I got to watch it the way you watch a line cook on a full Saturday, mostly by staying out of the way and handing her things. Friday, a handwriting examiner she'd met on some long-ago probate contest spent 3 hours with the ledger and Nana's recipe cards and pronounced them, in writing, the same patient hand. Saturday morning, Gus put on a tie that predated me and gave a deposition about 60 years of Sunday drawer counts, and when Victor's attorney asked, with weaponized courtesy, whether an elderly dishwasher's memory could really be trusted, Gus recited from memory the drawer total from the night the Berlin Wall fell. Slow night, everyone home watching, $211 and change, and the ledger, when they checked it, said $211.40, and Victor's attorney did not ask Gus anything else. Saturday night, Claire called me. I hadn't asked her for anything. June had insisted on that. She got dragged into this once by a Marchetti. She doesn't get dragged by 2. But Denise had subpoenaed Victor's visitor logs, and Claire had seen her name on the witness list for the other side. He's going to say I ended it because of your debts, she said. He's going to stand his story on my back again, Theo. I've spent 8 months being a thing that was done to me. A breath. And then Claire, who once couldn't be part of what was coming, said, "Put me on your list instead. I'll say it under oath. All of it. The loans, the office visit, the 9 weeks. Some things you fix by testifying." When I hung up, June looked at me across a table drowned in exhibits and said, quietly, "Your grandmother locked the door and your ex just bolted it," and went back to her tabs. And I understood that I was going into that courtroom carried by every woman my uncle had ever underestimated. Which, it turns out, was all of them. The hearing was Monday the 14th. Courtroom 2B. The same courtroom, which June's office may possibly have arranged, and which I choose to believe Nana would have found extremely funny. Victor's counsel went first, smooth as the good Scotch. A sham marriage, a desperate nephew, a county clerk with a Vegas annulment and improper access, all engineered to obstruct a sale the estate's debts made necessary. It sounded plausible. It sounded honestly like a story you'd click on. Then our attorney, paid, I want the record to reflect, by 11 employees who took half checks for a week and would not discuss it, stood up and took the morning apart in 3 exhibits. Exhibit A, 14 years of a grandmother's pencil ledger, authenticated by her first dishwasher and a handwriting examiner, showing a 5-figure skim by the standing trustee, at which point the estate debts stopped being a reason for the sale and started being a confession of where the money went. Exhibit B, a sworn statement from Claire, who had insisted on giving it, detailing witness tampering by that same trustee against his own nephew, 14 months of it, undertaken specifically to keep Article 4 from ever firing. And Exhibit C was Nana's letter, which the judge read silently, twice, and which is now permanently part of the county record of the state versus my uncle's whole personality, anchovy secret and all. Your Honor, Victor's counsel tried, the marriage itself remains a transparent legal stratagem. The judge looked at the letter. Then at June and me, counsel, she said, the settlor appears to have designed this marriage as a legal stratagem, drafted it as one, and prayed for it nightly. I'm not annulling a grandmother's answered prayer. Petition denied, gavel. And Mr. Marchetti, to Victor, whose face had gone the gray of a man watching a drawer being counted after him one last time, you are removed as trustee effective today. You will account for every entry in that notebook, and the clerk will refer this file to the district attorney. Weddings are cheap, sir. She stacked her papers. Restitution isn't. Rosa's is mine now, legally, permanently, in my name, with Nana's photo over booth 6, and her ledger in a bank box, and her osso buco finally back on the Sunday menu, anchovy and all. Victor took a plea in the spring. Dressler builds elsewhere. And the marriage, the tourniquet, the stunt, the paperwork we could undo after, if we wanted. 3 weeks after the hearing, I found June in booth 6 on a Sunday night, reading the trust. For pleasure, I assume, like a psychopath, and I slid into the other side and put the annulment paperwork on the table between us, blank, and a pen next to it, facing her, and said, You know, you'd make a terrible ex-wife. June Park looked at the blank forms, then at the pen, then at me. 15 years, 1 coat room, 1 courtroom, and every Sunday of the rest of it sitting right there in her eyes. And she smiled slower than the first time, slower than the party, the smile Nana wrote a trust around, and said, Then don't make me one. The paperwork's still blank. It's framed, actually, right next to Article 4. My wife has a strange sense of humor. It's my favorite thing I've ever proven wrong. Before you go, 2 questions, and I want real answers in the comments, because this whole story only exists because one person said the quiet thing out loud in a coat room. First, if your best friend of 15 years pulled you aside at a party and said the only way to save everything your family built was to marry them by Friday, would you have signed the license? Or would the fear of ruining the friendship have cost you the building and the girl? Tell me the truth about what you'd have done in booth 6. And second, the real one. Is there a running joke between you and someone, a bit, a nickname, a we'd never, that you've secretly known for years is a hiding place for the truth? The person you keep filed under joke, because filing them under anything else would change your whole life? Who are they? What's the bit? And what would happen if just once you broke it? Put it in the comments, I read them all, and somewhere down there somebody's best friend is scrolling, recognizing themselves, waiting to see if you'll say it first. If this story got you, subscribe, because next week I'm telling you about the wedding toast my father gave that made half the room walk out, and the DNA test envelope he taped under my chair before he stood up.